Hey everybody, welcome back to the Success Secrets Revealed show. Today we have with us Kolby K. He will be coming on momentarily. He isn't here right this minute, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the show, how the show got formed, and then a little bit I'll introduce him. So first, the show got formed. I have a radio show, an internet marketing and business solutions radio show with Ron Couming. Every week we have about 1.7 million reach. It's physically out of Lowell area, which is right outside of Boston, but it reaches out to like 1.7 million reach. So, and that's every week, but because of COVID, they've actually closed the station. They're running reruns. I had to pivot, and I wanted to continue to contribute. I'd been doing that show for about 3.5 years, and I wanted to contribute and still bring entrepreneurs and business owners, some great thought leaders and business executives, to help guide them along their entrepreneurial journey. So what I did is I pivoted with this show. So I do the live stream. I take the audio, I strip it out, I send that to a radio station, and they will run it live. But then the audio, that's what I do with the audio. The video I take and I put out through all different social media channels. And so everybody gets to see it. So probably close to over 2 million people roughly have the reach. And that's just from my side. My guests actually share it out as well. So what I am, I'm getting texts at the same time. So our guests don't get paid to come on the show, and I don't get paid to come on the show. They don't get paid to come on the show. They don't pay to come on the show. We have one sponsor, and that's RCS Online Solutions. And that's my company, and that's where we help business owners and entrepreneurs, much like you, attract, convert, and retain their ideal customers and clients to achieve even greater success. So with that said, I'm still looking for Kolby to come on. He just texted me, I'm sure. And hopefully he'll be able to make it today. He's sending him the link right now. Anyhow, we'll give him a couple more minutes. I'll introduce him. Kolby K is not just a keynote speaker and or high-performance business leader. He is a corporate executive, best-selling author, film producer, relationship selling expert, master of social media, and a devoted father who is passionate about life, laughter, continuous learning, and travel, and spending time with his incredible 9 children. Wow, 9 children. That is amazing. So I'm texting him now. It'd be great if he could make it. But anyhow, after this, we have Forbes Riley, who will be on at about 12:15. She has sold $2.5 billion, and I think she sold over $1 billion in 24 hours. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is, after that, then we have Danielle Rocco coming on, and she's a rock star in herself. She's a relationship coach, business coach, and she's doing tremendous things with the vets today. So we'll give Kolby a couple more minutes. I've sent him the link, every format possible through social media, texting, email. So let me put this ticker on. Ta-da! And here we go. Here's Kolby. Here he is, Kolby. I introduced you and everything.
Hey, my man. How are you, sir?
Good. What's going on with you? 9 children, man. You must be busy, brother.
Sir, yes, that is definitely true. Got a little bit of a late start today. Finished a workout, had a handful of calls. Still in the scrubby, sweaty clothes here. So I appreciate the chance to get on, my friend.
No, I appreciate you made it. I mean, I introduced you. I introduced the show, so I've only been filling time for about a minute, and I just talked about our next couple of guests. So, but
Awesome.
more importantly, I mean, that was a short bio that you sent us. I've heard you speak, and I've been around you. I know you're a rock star, brother. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely, man. As we get started, let me just say first and foremost, Ronald, that I'm honored for the opportunity to speak in front of your audience today. Anytime I have the chance to speak to a new group of people, I don't take that lightly, and I respect the chance and the opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, and we're grateful for your time, experience, willingness to come on and share with us as well. So we're grateful.
Awesome. So I guess a 30,000-foot view. I grew up. Let's see here. I grew up with two loving parents. I had an entrepreneur mother. I had a father who was kind of a laborer. Hard work was kind of wired into our DNA. Parents got divorced when I was young, and I bounced around a lot as a kid. And as bouncing around, that got me into the music industry. That led to working for the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake City, where I was the assistant entertainment director for the Olympics. And wow. I thought music was going to kind of be my thing. I stayed in kind of the music and production and promotion industry for close to 10 years. And then I got full custody of our oldest daughter, and I had to make a choice. You know, did I want to be a rock star or a dad? I chose to be a father, and I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And in that process, I was introduced to my introduction to corporate America. I went in as an individual contributor in a technology firm that was reselling technology services to other companies, and I spent almost 15 years there building high performance sales teams and marketing teams for companies like Hewlett Packard, Dell, and IBM.
Wow!
I left that. I built a software company. There was a huge need in our client base to solve a problem. And I started watching YouTube videos to learn how to code, and built a software company. Left my corporate gig, took a huge risk, and walked away from a comfortable position I spent 15 years to get to go chase this software company that I had built. I got sued, lost everything. Got divorced, lost the house. Everything. Had had to file for bankruptcy. And that's where a lot of people know me, because I picked up this device and I started filming a video every day. I was like, I don't know what it is I'm going to do next. I know that there's kind of 4 basic principles that every business is built on. Find a group of people with a problem, create a solution to that problem, validate that your solution works and that they'll pay for it. And then the 4th one, sell your face off, right? So that was 5 years ago. I was very blessed and honored over a period of time. I've created close to about 175,000 pieces of content, and in that reached over close to 30 million people. And it's been an adventure, man. So that got me kind of really connected in the social sphere. I built the film studio. Went from the film studio to getting into behavioral health and doing a whole series of things in mental and behavioral health. And right now we've got a handful of businesses that are tied up directly in helping underserved communities and people that are at risk test for COVID-19, to do testing, mitigation, and then reopening kind of these impoverished communities.
Wow.
Yeah, father of 9. I like long walks on the beach. What else? I like puppies.
In the moonlight, holding hands.
Rockstars might sponsor me. I think I drink, one of these in the morning. So, it's I'm very blessed, man, to have gone through a ton and come out the other side, kind of learning along the way.
Yeah, and that's one huge thing. I think when people see successful people, they see them where they are right now. They don't see that that's 10, 15, 20 years after many, twists and turns and trials and tribulations. They think like somehow it's a light switch. You just, flick a switch and poof, all of a sudden you're successful. I mean, you went through, many more ups and downs than the average person. Even just, having a corporate gig, leaving it, starting a company, that's great, doing well. but then getting sued, then getting bankruptcy, then getting divorced.
Yeah.
You were knocked down like 4 ways for Sunday, and now you have a sponsor that provides your morning beverage.
That's it.
No one's providing my morning beverage.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's funny. I wrote a book called You Should See the Other Guy, and it covers all the things in life that should have killed me that didn't, and like what I learned from those things. And what I learned a long time ago, Ronald, was I spent tens of thousands of dollars hiding my mistakes when I was in my corporate position. Everything, all the stupid things that you do as a kid. And it wasn't until I embraced the quote unquote mistakes or the challenges that I had been through that life changed, right? It's when you can learn how to embrace the things that you've done or the things that maybe people would look down on you for. You need to embrace those struggles, because that's where the grit and the foundation of who you really are kind of lies. And the more you hide that, the less you're able to kind of stand on top of it. So for me, it was really freeing to, understand. I say I've never been a victim. So it's like I've never been through something and been like, poor me. It's always, and I've never blamed anybody. It's always been, what can I do? How do I get out of this position? Or what did I learn in this position? And try not to make the same mistakes. But it's those things I've learned through probably the heaviest times I've ever been through that have made me a better dad, a better husband, a better business owner, a better person in my community. It's built empathy. It's built more creativity. And it's allowed me to do some really cool things and help some pretty amazing people.
I love it, and you're the epitome of perseverance as well, and that's amazing. In this book you've written, You Should See the Other Guy. I assume that's up on Amazon or something. People would be able to find that.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Good. And so, what are you doing now for business? I mean, you said you got a sponsor. You're doing something, right?
No, I said they should sponsor me.
Okay.
So if you're paying, yes, no, they're not sponsoring me. Well, I moved. We had a film studio in Phoenix, and we were doing kind of commercial content for companies, all tech firms. All the companies I used to work for: Hewlett Packard, IBM, Microsoft. We were doing social media and video content, right, for them.
Yep.
I walked away from that and moved. So I've been divorced twice. I guess the first time wasn't enough. The second time was plenty. I learned enough through this last time. That almost killed me. I went through. There was a really interesting series of things that kind of happened, but I essentially I walked away from everything. I got rid of the film studio and left the state that I was in, where everybody I knew was in, and I came to Southern Utah. So like right now I'm in Southern Utah. I'm about 45 minutes outside of Zion National Park, a couple hours from Vegas. And I came here, and as I came here and was kind of regrouping, I met my wife now, who I'm married to now. And the things I started to really was focusing on was healing from kind of the traumas of the things I'd experienced that I hadn't really addressed. And in that, I was looking for purpose. The things that I like to involve myself on, or businesses that I like to either work for, work with, or create, have to have some type of give back, and it has to solve something that it's hard to explain, but it's got to have some meaning to me personally. It's got to feel like I'm fulfilled in some way.
Yeah.
And we started filming from a creative perspective. Our second oldest daughter had asked us if we had seen a recent video on Facebook Live of a student in her class that had ended his life. And I said, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to be involved in that. Long story short, it wasn't the act of what he did. It was his manifesto. And we live in a small community. We live in a place called Washington County. And we had 11 youth suicides that year. And I thought, well, this is a problem. We need to figure out what's going on. Like, that seems very egregious to me. That's a lot compared to kind of where we live. And I brought a camera along, and we started just filming stories. That we built that into a nonprofit. We started filming an outline for 8 episodes that they were taking to Netflix that was focused on, it's a program called A Life Worth Living. So we built a nonprofit company called A Life Worth Living. It's focused on giving resources and tools to teens that are struggling, right, with depression and with mental illness, and giving them hope and showing them that there's a different way. And in the middle of filming all of that, obviously, you've got COVID, you've got all these things. Netflix put us on hold, but I was very blessed and honored to enter into what's called behavioral health. So these residential centers where troubled teens would go if they had, traumas that they, some kind of sexual trauma that they needed therapy for, some kind of abuse that they were overcoming. They had, maybe some kind of deviancy where they, were addicted to some substances and got in trouble, and their parents needed help. So they had these residential centers where kids can go. I got really tied into a couple of those based on our work for the show. They had asked us to do some filming and to help them build content. So that became a kind of an automated service for behavioral health, where we went from the film project to, as that went on hold, we pivoted into creating content, essentially like SEO plus is what we call it, to help behavioral health centers for parents that are looking for help for their kids, having them show up top of list when people are looking. Yep. That turned into a recurring revenue stream. We've got lots of amazing clients, and that led to the CDC and the FDA asking us to build marketing material and help around testing, so COVID testing. So we've been in this COVID model since November of last year is when we started kind of looking at it, what was happening in China, if it was going to come here. January, February is really when we started to understand that there was something happening in the States. And then we kind of dove head first in seeing what started with, can you help us build marketing material for social? Can you help us translate some of these documents for people that need testing? To there are huge groups of people in very underserved communities that aren't getting tested, that are getting neglected. So, one of the things that I look at is, I don't care what your personal opinion is about it. Like, is it real? Is it not? Do I wear a mask? Do I not? I don't care. What I do care about is the fact that no matter what we think our personal opinion is on Facebook, as all of a sudden, everybody's in that, they went from being a crypto expert to now everybody's an expert on infectious diseases. Yeah. The fact is, communities are shut down. 45% or 43% of all small businesses are closed right now. We don't know if they're coming back. We've got 30 million people that are unemployed. We have there's so many things that are happening around us that my opinion doesn't matter. Like how I feel about it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that those feelings didn't stop the fact that small communities are getting ravished right now. And when you start to look at small communities in highly minority-based communities, or you look at small rural communities out in the middle of nowhere, to the Indian reservation and what's happening with the Navajo Nation, these people need help to get tested, so they understand what the spread's like, so they can stop and they can reopen. So we teamed up with the very amazing company that builds. I usually have it around me. I don't have them sitting right here, but there's these saliva test kits that the accuracy rate's 98.9%, and we get results back in 48 hours. If you're paying attention to the news, you're seeing the average result time is 11 hours, 11 days. We're getting those done in hours sometimes. So, we've really kind of doubled down on, taking our expertise to find these people in need that need kind of help during these uncertain times.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm surprised you guys started way back in November. I mean, it was that was almost like before we even knew about it, and people were already working on it. I mean, you know what I mean? That kind of like the whole timeline that we hear in public, that brings a whole nother,
Well, this is the only reason that happened that soon, Ronald, is we have software designers and developers that work for our sister company, Therapy Scout, that I built. That's the marketing automation for behavioral health firm. We have people that are outsourced, and we have developers that are global. right? We don't outsource the development, but we've got teams that are remote, right, in other countries.
Yeah.
And we were hearing about it we have some contacts, and some of our developers are in close to Wuhan, right? So they were telling us kind of what they're Americans. It's funny enough, they're Americans that live there. Were telling us what was happening. And I was like, we're keeping an eye on it. And they were like, it's something big. It's not something that like the coverage that you're seeing is not what's going on. Like there's a lot of stuff happening. You need to keep an eye on it. So from November to February, we just watched it. It was just a kind of a math exercise. It's like once something spreads, it's kind of like the, I guess, epidemic 101 is once it leaves a specific area and you get a case in somewhere that's not native to where it was found, how fast is it spreading from person to person? And then take a couple places that happens, and then how fast does it spread? Then it becomes a math exercise in a spreadsheet. Like we started making guesses in February, March on when we thought it was going to really affect us here. February, March, April, May is when we started having discussions around what are we going to do. Then June, I mean, it was full blown at that point, right? Yeah. And it happened pretty fast. And I think, we're in this weird uncertain time, but in these weird uncertain times, this is where innovation shines. We've never seen innovation in healthcare happen this fast across the board. I mean, from testing mechanisms to treatments to biology. I mean, there's so many things. And then look at the business side, right? Who knew that Zoom was going to end up being more valuable than some of these IT companies that we would do business with? It's the way we conduct business and the way we conduct school, the way we conduct healthcare has changed. There's no going back. It's going to continue to be forward thinking. And in those moments, you can live in your house in fear, you can deny change, or you can get involved and try to be forward thinking on trying to solve the problems that are being created.
I love it. And that's so true. I mean, the last out of 2008, we had some big companies come out of there like Uber and Lyft. And, whenever there's some big upheaval, there's always some opportunities, Yep. So you can sit back and be a victim, or you can look at it and say, okay, I can't control this, but what can I do? And I love the fact that you were in on it from so early on. How do you to my mind, it's slowing down a little bit now, but is it? You seem to be like 10 levels above the average.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that when you look at statistically, I think the next run that we're going to see in the next 2 weeks is going to be the experiment for school. Right. I think we just saw some numbers come across. It was like 92. So we talked to the CDC and the FDA probably sometimes twice a day. The last report I saw, 92,000 kids that were impacted in the last 2 weeks of July. Right. And we say, no, kids aren't getting it. So it's going to be interesting to see once all the schools open up, how that's going to play out. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like, I'm not an alarmist. It's, there's so many moving factors. We've got the election. There's just so many things that are kind of taking place it's hard to keep your eye on it. Yeah. What I do know is the people are dying. I mean, I can't tell you the families that we've met with where it doesn't matter what you think about it. It's like they've got respiratory issues and they were highly impacted. I think the biggest thing, I'm not a health expert, right? But one of the biggest things that I think we've missed is why we don't talk enough about building the immune system. Like, I get social distancing, I get hand sanitizing, I get wearing a mask, I get the things you're supposed to do, but why don't we talk about what are the vitamin supplementations I should be taking? How much time should I be outside? I should get sunlight and fresh air. How is it 45 minutes a day? How much exercise should I be doing? What should my diet look like? You know what? I should probably cut down, because we know sugar is like the host for cancer, for everything. Everything you get sick with is based on a lot of the sugars you have in your systems that build the deficiencies. So why don't we talk about reducing sugars and reducing complex carbs and maybe eating a little cleaner? Like, there's basic things I think that get missed that I really wish we spoke more about that I think would help. But I mean, my guess is, almost as close as I am to it. It's, my guess is almost as good as yours. I mean, every day, multiple times a day, it's different. Something's different. So it's hard.
it's so funny you say that, because I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday about that, but I've mentioned it several times. I do SEO, I do online marketing, I do some of the things that you do too. That's why I love what you started talking about. But I think one of the things that will come out of this is that I hope will come out of this is people will realize that people who had less medical conditions had a better survival rate, that the people who had 2 or 3 type of conditions were the ones who are actually dying. Some other people got sick, it was like a bad flu. But if people now start focusing, that's what I'm hoping, is that coming out of this, people will now start focusing more on their overall health. Exactly. Eating better, sleeping better, less sugar, less alcohol, less tobacco, exercise more, even if it's a half-hour walk. Even if you're in your office, just walk back and forth in between calls or something, right?
Yep.
Just something. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping comes out of this. And I'm hoping to work with a couple of, doctors and just run funnels and, get this in front of people so they can, start to get some of this information. But when you said 92% of teenagers, and one other thing I saw today or yesterday from the CDC was that the suicide rate and the drug overdose rate of kids, even the drug overdoses that survived, has skyrocketed between the teenagers. It was a report I saw yesterday from the CDC. So teenage suicide rate and overdose rate, and they might live from they might be not die from the overdose, but that's crazy, man. I mean, and that's like, so the psychological, you talked about the behavioral aspect of this, but the impact of what's going to happen when them 43% of business owners can't open up anymore and they have to file bankruptcy. What happens to their families? How do they eat? How many more of them are going to commit suicide? How many of them are going to start drinking more? And then there's more domestic abuse. And I mean, the ripple effect of this cure is this
is generational, Ron. Like this is generational. This is not. So let me correct something you said. It wasn't 90%, 2%. It was 92,000 kids have been recorded. So 92,000 cases of kids that went back to school in the last 2 weeks of July. They've been reported with COVID, right? So we know that kids can get it. So the school thing is going to be interesting, right? We know that, God forbid, a bunch of those teachers all get sick at the same time. Then
they bring it back to the parents.
The next big wave that we have is going to be that. And the problem with that is, like, what about the single mom who's working 2 to 3 jobs, who doesn't have a place to put their 9-year-old or 12-year-old? They can't stay home all day, and they're going to stay home in front of a computer to do school. It's the school systems have done an amazing job of feeding families that counted on lunches. There are, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that there was a large percentage of underserved families that they're on subsidized school lunch, right? That might be the only meal they get. And then if they're not in school, that means they're not eating. We don't think about that, right? We think about our cushy little life, and I go to the fridge anytime I want and get a snack out of the cupboard. We don't think that eating is one of those things. And the school has done really well on supplementing that stuff, like having meeting points where they drop off school lunches. Schools have adjusted. I think the thing you said couldn't be more true is the mental health problems that we see are going to skyrocket. So like a big part of our client base, that's what they do. Their mental and behavioral health, their business has gone through the roof. So people ask me, like, how's it impacted us? Well, one, the core business that we built on a pivot after we were filming, because filming went on hiatus, has skyrocketed. Right. And it's all referral based. Like, I don't run ads. Like, I don't have to. It's like one client goes to the next one, goes to the next one, because they're all these programs are connected, and we stay in our niche. Right. I don't go outside of it. We don't do. So you can appreciate this as somebody who does SEO. We do business listing optimization first, which is the precursor to SEO. If your business isn't set up online first, SEO doesn't matter. So we do that. That's what we do really, really, really well. So the Google My Business Management stuff is what we excel in. Our programs are on wait lists, like programs that take 30, 40 kids at a time. They're on a wait list, right? So their businesses are doing great. The other side of it is the stuff that we're doing around testing. Like, we just can't do testing fast enough. And we're doing it at the county city level, and those people have approved funding. So, like, we know there's money there. They're going to spend it with somebody. So where do we go to fit in where they're spending money to show that our value proposition solves that problem? Yep. But in the middle of all of that, the domestic abuse has increased over 45%. The depression rate, me personally, there was a time where I didn't leave my house for. We had a new baby. He's 4 months old. So we delivered a baby in the pandemic in the hospital. I had Lyme disease. I went through a nasty bout of going through Lyme disease and recovering. That stuff's still always in your system. And then my wife's system started to shut down at the end of the pregnancy. If you were to say we're high risk at one point, our whole family was high risk, and there's nothing I wanted to do to impact that. So I stayed home. Working from the house as hard as we do, I didn't even go outside. I was so busy just working and put my head down. What I realized was it was 1 day, 2 days. It's almost like a workout regimen or a bad diet. You don't start out thinking, I'm going to have cheeseburgers and pizza and beer every day. You just okay, it's 1 meal, 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals. Next thing you know, 6 months down the line, you're like, why am I 100 pounds overweight? Because that's all you're doing is eating shitty. It didn't start that way, right? You didn't start with the intention of that. It's the same thing where it's twice as hard to get back in shape. It's if you don't have those regimented details down, you fall into these patterns. And I found myself literally super depressed and didn't want to answer calls and I didn't want to and I was I don't know what is it, right? It's me personally, I felt the effects of it, and it's I have a house to live in, we have food, we've got power. It's if I was in a scenario where that wasn't the case, how bad is that impacting me? Because it's 1 day, then it's 2 days, and it's 3 days. The next thing you know, now it's, you've been home and in bed for months, right? Yep. Especially if you've got some kind of supplemental income. If you're on unemployment or something, the hospitality industry was completely decimated. Those servers, how are they making a living? They're not, right? So it's just an interesting thing. The way that I've always led, Ron, is with compassion. If I can lead with compassion and empathy, I'm not ignorant and I won't be taken advantage of, and that's not to be confused with being soft, but it's okay to lead with compassion and empathy in a lot of these scenarios. And I'm always looking for ways to help versus ways to complain, criticize, or make somebody feel worse by having my opinion overshadow theirs.
I love it, man. I love it. And you're right. I mean, I don't even know. I love how you said this is generational, because a lot of people are thinking months, and you know what I mean. But the effects of this it's generational.
Well, think about this. What about the family pizzeria in Brooklyn that has been there for 2-3 generations? Right, their families were immigrants. They came over from Sicily. The grandfather started it. The dad took it over. The kids are working there now, and they're not open. They're not open month 1. They're not open month 2. They've been forced to close. Nobody can eat on the patios. They close them again. Right when I start to get open again, they close it again. They don't have the bankroll to stay open for a year without making any money. Right. And if they didn't get approved for the SBA, the small business loan, or the emergency funding, if they didn't get that stuff, what are they going to do? They're going to go out of business. And that means 3 generations of business in that family are gone. They're wiped out. The future of their families and anybody that would continue that's all gone. We just forget about that. It's it's the first time in my lifetime, and I think the first time ever, where the government has shut companies down or put them out of business. I mean, if 43% of small businesses are gone out of business, how much of that is directly impacted because they were forced to shut down?
Now that's 43% have gone out of business or are just shut down right now?
They're out of business.
Wow.
Yeah, they're out of business. Forbes just released a report. I'll send you some links. The only reason I know that's the updated number is, funny enough, when I put my thoughts together, and I'm going to put a post out, say it's on Facebook or my LinkedIn, I like to do a little bit of research before I just spout what I think my opinion is. And one of the things that I continually see are these cut and paste on both sides. I see, because we're I've never seen a country that's been so divided, right? It's everything is so politicized that you're on one side of the fence or the other. You can't be in the middle, right? It's you either are for it or against it. And there's so much cut and paste of somebody's strength and what they think is what's going on. Like on one side, you've got I've seen like a friend of mine works at OSHA, and this is what they say about masks, and it's a very well written post about the science of face coverage, and like trying to tell people that they don't need to wear a mask, right? And then on the other side, I'll see somebody that's very pro that, put together a very articulated like position on why they should do it. And it's one of these things where, again, it goes back to the statement that I said earlier. I don't care what your opinion is. Like at the end of the day, what are you doing when you post this kind of stuff? Either don't leave the house without one, or don't worry about it and don't wear one. You're an asshole. It's my freedom. If you like to wear, don't restrict me. Yep. It's by posting that poisonous information over and over and over. What are you doing? Because you're not giving a solution. You're not saying, I don't think you should wear a mask, and here's what you should do next. What do I do next? Nothing. It's like there's no call to action. It's like you're just complaining, and then it's two sides complaining, but there's no resolution. What does that do? All that does is creates more fear, doubt, and uncertainty. So I was putting kind of my thoughts together on, if you're pro one way, here's a list of things you should do. So if I'm pro-mask, for example, or I'm anti-mask, I'm like, it's against my freedoms, and I think this whole thing is made up. I don't even believe in it, which surprisingly enough, there's a lot of people that feel that way. It's, okay, what do I do in this time of what do I do to defend my position? Instead of like complaining and posting all these like articles about stuff and like causing more confusion, what can I do? Well, here's a list of things you can do. Here's a list of, you need to vote. First and foremost, you need to vote. You need to find out who are the people that are in charge of making the decisions that impact your community. And you got to get involved at the community level. Next piece is like, okay, that's the state. What about my community? Where do I find out who the leadership is there? Like, here's the links to find out who your local mayors are. Okay, now what? So it's like literally, here's a list of links of things to go do if you feel your rights are being infringed upon and you think this whole thing's a scam. But what about on the other side? What if you don't and you believe in science and like that's the position? What do I do with all of these people that are like against it? What do I do to how do I solidify my position without just being argumentative? Like, what do I do? Like, okay, well, here's a list of things you need to do. At the end of them, it's always vote. You got to vote, man. You got to be involved. Otherwise, you're complaining. Like, nobody wants, shut up and bring a solution to the table. Like, don't complain about it. And again, the only reason I feel so strongly about it is if I pull my personal feelings about the entire thing out. Because believe me, I've gone both extremes. Like, I've felt both ways about it. It's like, I get it. It's the fact that businesses are shutting down, communities are stopping, and people are getting sick. Like, what do we want to do? We want to get back to some kind of normalcy, right? Some kind of resemblance of some life that we used to know. Oh, how do you do that? Okay, so it's not being opinion based on social media, telling you what I think about Dr. Fauci or Trump. It's about getting involved at the local level. It's about getting involved with my communities. Oh, and guess what, Ron? There's a ton of opportunity there. There's a great story. A friend of mine, his name is George Chanos. He used to be the Attorney General for Nevada. Yeah, so he used to be the Attorney General in Vegas. He's a great guy. He has a story that I'll share. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on it, but the basis of it is the same. There was a study done in England. They took a pessimist and an optimist, right? Who characteristically thought, one person was kind of the world's ending. The other person never saw darkness. They always thought everything was, almost overly optimistic. And they put them in a scenario where they had them go into this coffee shop to get coffee. And the pessimist walks in, head down on her phone, walks up to the counter, orders her coffee, and leaves. This other gentleman walks in. He's not on his phone. He's looking around. He's paying attention. Goes to order his coffee, and he sees there's a $20 bill on the floor. So the lady walked right by the $20 bill. Not only is there a $20 bill on the floor, when he looks over, there's a gentleman reading the Wall Street Journal, drinking his coffee, having his pastry, and the $20 bill is kind of between him and the counter. He has a decision to make. Gets his coffee, picks up the $20 bill, walks over to the man who's reading the Wall Street Journal, and strikes up a conversation, right? That conversation then turns into a series of opportunities where when he walks out, now he has this guy's contact information. $20 wasn't his. He was able to keep the $20. But it was a starting point of a series of movements and opportunities that then started to happen after that one tiny little interaction.
Yeah.
And I consider myself an opportunist. When I used to say that, I felt like I had to defend it. Like, no, I don't mean like I'm opportunistic trying to take advantage of you. It's no, like when enough things present themselves in front of me as a problem, that to me becomes an opportunity to solve it, right? So I'm always looking for opportunities to help. And in this time right now are you going to be so buried in your life, your problems and your relationships and your money? The metaphor here is I'm on my phone walking into the coffee shop. Is that going to be how you live during this whole thing? Or are you going to take a step back and say, okay, what's happening around me? What's happening at the current company that I'm working at? That's changing, evolving. How can I get involved there where there's new opportunities? Is there a new division? Is there new ways that you can position your expertise in something that helps you become a better person at the company you work at? Are there new opportunities at the local food bank? Like maybe they've got some money and they need to figure out how to get that message out to their local communities. Can you go offer marketing services to the food pantries, right? There's to the homeless shelters. Like there's so many things that can be done right now if you're walking into it with the lens of what can I do to serve, right? The opportunities are endless.
I love it. We're coming to we have about 4 or 5 minutes left, and but this has been amazing. It was definitely worth all of 90 seconds we had to wait for you.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
But I mean, it touches so many different aspects of this. What really got me is 92,000 kids now have been tested positive for COVID, because we were under the impression that they couldn't get it, but if they did get it, it wouldn't affect them as much. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So to me, I don't mean to minimize it, but if we get it, but we don't have those other issues. I mean, I get a cold too. I get the flu too. I mean,
Yep.
It's not going to kill me. I'm not going to shut down the country for it either. But but then these kids could then possibly pass it on to somebody.
That's it, Ron. That's it. When people, you can't get confused. And I'll put it like this way: the lab that we use to do testing is actually close to where we are, and they did a study with 3,000 people. They did a bunch of different kinds of testing: nasal, saliva, blood, and over 3,000 people. They found out of 3,000 people, over 80% of them had the virus inside of them. Of those 80%, it was less than, I think, 15% actually were showing symptoms, right? Okay, if that's being said, if 90% of the people that were tested have it or have gotten it or it's in their system, but only 15% started to show symptoms. So if 92,000 kids have it, the chances of them showing symptoms, let's say 900 of those kids, like something happens, it's those 92,000 people then become a beacon to get to other people that could have symptoms and could get sick. So like you said, like that, it just blows out. So whether they get sick as we know it, because they've been identified as testing positive, is a different discussion point. But the fact is they become a transmission device to spread it to people that are compromised.
Right. And one of the bigger problems is I might be kind of naive on this, but, I don't think we've ever found a cure. We don't have a cure for the common cold. We don't have a cure for and there's so much concern with the vaccines. I mean, what else is in there? Not just, baby fetus and mercury and whatever some people think are in viruses now. But, I saw a thing where Bill Gates was talking to the CIA back in like 2003. And they were talking about how some terrorists had a certain response to this, and people who were in the same religious faith heard the same thing, but their brain cells didn't light up the way it did when they heard it, right? They were testing these. Some were fanatical, some were just regular followers. And their brain cells went up, and his theory was that they could vaccinate all of them so that when they all heard it, they all had that same passive type of response. And then the CIA guy asked him, there's only 3 in the room, and it was a pretty big room, but they kept it kind of small. And the guy asked me, says, well, how do we distribute this? Do you think they're going to, line up to the hospital and just let us, give them a shot? And he says, no, we just release it in some type of a virus, some type of a flu, some type of a cold. And then just by, normal stuff, it will get passed throughout the whole community. I sat there and I listened to that and I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? So, what the possibilities of it gets scary, you know what I mean? When you hear stuff like that, I mean, hey, hopefully it's not true. Hopefully they never did anything. But in that case, it would have been probably a good thing. But, that having that type of technology could be used to create just a bunch of worker bee dummies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here's what I do know is nobody knows, and we're not really ready, like for anything, right? We're not prepared. There are so many conspiracies that I'm still waiting for. I'm still waiting for aliens to be announced on Joe Rogan's next podcast that been living in Colorado in a cave or something. Like there's not Joe Biden's running mate's going to be Bigfoot. It's like I get it. Like if there's nothing that's going to like right now. Like there's so many things going on. It's hard not to almost be an alarmist, right? It's important to pay attention. It's important to be knowledgeable. It's important to dive into subjects that you're interested in. Educate yourself so you can, if you want to have a debate, at least you're educated on what you're talking about. The other piece, though, is what I also know is you cannot let that shit consume you. Like you just can't. Like because there's so many different things you could be thinking about. I mean, I don't know. I get the political thing that's happening right now and the financial money that's being moved in and out. Like you want to be concerned. They're like that's right in front of us. I mean, that's right in front of us. We're talking $6 trillion and money being moved around. What did the Catholic Church get? $1.7 billion of the small business loans. Like if you're not paying attention to where the money's moving around, and like you're more concerned about these like is Bill Gates trying to biologically kill everyone? It's like I'm looking at like the business aspects of you follow the money. The money's going to lead you where this stuff goes. But at the end of the day, what I try my hardest to do, I'm paying attention to it, but I have to disconnect because it's overwhelming, is not allowing things that are negative into the space that I try to operate, because then that becomes and consumes who I've become. And I've gone up and down. Like I've been to a person who's been on every news feed, looking at everything in real time, to deleting social media off all of my devices and only going there when I feel like it, but like not staying away from it, no push notifications, just like trying to detox from overload so I can stay in the present to focus on the positive.
I love it, and that's probably one of the most positive things I hope people get out of this is disconnect to reconnect. But when you say follow the money, what are some of your thoughts on that? I mean, the $6 trillion is a combination of these two things, and they're talking about bailing out cities, mail-in ballots. In the $1.6 billion that supposedly went to a lot of small businesses didn't actually get. That's why 43% of those businesses are now closed, because it never got to them.
Yep. A great example is the recent, I don't want to get into politics, but if you look at the recent announcement, so Trump makes the announcement, listen, we're like at this part, we're stuck at this impasse. The Democrats and the Republicans can't get it together. So I'm going to make an executive order to take care of the American people, right? It's the way it's positioned. And by doing that, what we're going to do is instead of doing the $600 stimulus for unemployment weekly, we're going to do $400. So at least there's something that comes across the board. We're going to introduce corporate tax cuts, right? We're going to give tax breaks to you where you don't have to pay corporate taxes. On the outside, that looks really good. I'm like, that's a good thing. Like, this partisan politics crap's got to go. I think they're in recess right now. I really would be interesting because the Senate goes to recess in August on the 10th. That's today. So I want to know if they all took a break for the month in the middle of the worst financial crisis we've ever had. I want to know if the politicians took a month off. Because if they did, every one of those assholes needs to be voted out. All of them. Exactly. And across the board, no matter no matter where you sit, every one of those assholes should be like voted out, because it's not fair that we wait a month for them to make a decision. They already stopped the unemployment stuff. So it's like the impact of this is going to be so heavy if it's not implemented. So follow the money. $400 here, but we're going to take it out of this bucket. You don't tell me the bucket you're taking it out of. What bucket are you taking it out of? Well, what pays for Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare?
Payroll
taxes. Okay,
yep.
So you're giving me $400, but you're getting rid of payroll taxes. Okay, great. Payroll taxes can be deferred because the president doesn't have the authority to write that check. It still has to go through the proper channels. So in the end of the day, that money gets cut from one program to give here. If that becomes rule and law, because that money will have to be paid back by the companies. I think the date was by December. That money has to get paid back. If that gets rolled over and Trump gets reelected, which there's probably a good chance he will, if that rolls over and now that becomes the standard, the funding that backs Medicaid and Social Security now is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, which means that what happens? 50% of elderly, like Ronald, 50%. If you take, there's a study done that I'll send you a link on. If you took 100, I can't remember what the total number of people were. Let's just for math, it's 100. 100 people that are retiring, so they're coming of age of retirement, which is 68. Of 100 people that retire, 50% of them are on government assistance or being taken care of in a system or by family members. Half. Out of that half, 30, and then you have 30% of them die, like 32%, they die, they don't make it. And then you have less than 5% are in a financial set of security, and less than 1% are wealthy.
Yep.
So half of those people now that are counting on that system that they paid into their whole financial existence. I paid Social Security since I can remember. All that money goes away or gets cut, like reduced. It's not a lot of money to begin with. What happens to that? What happens to those older people that need it?
Yep.
Right? Because we have a whole generation that are now coming into that retirement. What happens to them? Right? So that's where it's like follow the money. But then you can get into the rhetoric of like the political stuff, and I try my hardest not to. Because I don't know. It's like I've been an independent as long as I can vote. I've voted for Bush. I've voted for Obama. I've voted for Romney. I've voted for Trump. So it's like it doesn't. If you look at my voting record, I've gone both ways. I won't vote the same way this time. It's like there's lots of different things that are all happening. But here's what I know: at the end of the day, decisions that continue to be made, and this is since the history of time, decisions that are being made continually marginalize the lower to middle class. And those groups of people continually are pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And at the community level, there are tremendous amount of opportunities to serve, right? So no matter where we feel, how we feel about things, again, how we feel doesn't matter when it comes to business. It's what we do with what we see the direct impacts are that matters.
I love it. And I got my next guest already jumping on.
Awesome,
so
brother.
Get ready to go. But Kolby, I'd love to follow up. I mean, I know you're super busy, but if we could get you back on in a couple of weeks or a month, whatever, and I can actually do like a Zoom or something at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, whatever's convenient for you.
Yeah,
and then I'll run it live. Because what you have, what you're bringing to the table, I mean, there's so many people who really need to hear it. So thank you so much for blessing us with your presence today, brother.
Oh, man, I'm honored, brother. Thanks again, man. Have a wonderful morning. I'll talk to you the next time. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you, man. You have a great day.
Thanks, brother.
Bye-bye.